you were saying the struggle, your struggle was coming from being lonely.
Yeah, being the only child too can, you know, you can have all the toys in the world. It's still not the same as having somebody there with you. You know, like to talk to and things like that. I came up as an only child. I had slews of cousins.
Right.
You know what I mean? Slews. So it wasn't like I was old, you know, always by myself, but they weren't there all the time either.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So um, it was a little different for me because, you know, I think I was okay though with not having a brother or sister because I had so many cousins. You know what I mean? So it didn't really plague me too much. But I think as I got older and we started separating, everybody started going their same way or different ways. It, you know, you go through different things. You know what I mean? I don't think I'm not sure if it was depression too that, you know, I'm trying to figure out some things as to what led me into the dark. You know what I mean? That was a very you know, precise question that you asked me, and I don't think I gave a good answer.
No,
You know what I
I
mean?
mean, so that's something that people don't think about as
Hmm.
far as with being the only child.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't think Vida's the only, like I wouldn't. It's just something that I wasn't really thinking. But
Hmm.
now that you mention it,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, depression is something that people don't want to
Admit.
admit and don't
Right.
want to cope
Hmm.
with it.
Hmm.
But that's something that we all people, whether they want to admit it or believe it or not, we all have a depression from something.
Right. And not only that, you want to meet at least your mom's expectations. You don't want her to be looking at you sideways like, what the, you know what I mean? What you got going on? Why you being stupid? You know what
Hmm.
I mean? You didn't want that. You know what I'm saying? And even as you got older, you still didn't want that. You know what I mean? So you had to pick your path, pick and choose. You know what I'm saying? You got to pick your battles.
What was your relationship like with your father?
Oh, me and my dad were pretty close. We were pretty close. You know, I could talk to him about a lot of things. You know what I mean? Um, I didn't even realize till I got older how close we had got.
Hmm.
You know, even towards the end when he, you know, was getting sick and going back and forth in the hospital and all that. You know, you think um, they don't forget about you, but you know, it's because their sickness is more what is on their mind. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? But it hurt me to my heart to see my dad like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Hmm.
and things like that. And, you know,
So yeah, where were we at?
talk about my dad.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, yeah, my dad was. A lot of people like couldn't see the emotional part that my dad had because he was always funny. You know, cracking jokes and you know being clownish and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But a one-on-one conversation with him, oh my goodness, you would never imagine how far you could go in conversation if you know you just sit down and get to know folks and get to know where they are. You know what I mean? And that's the one thing we don't do enough. We don't check in with folks and see where their mind is and if they okay and all that kind of stuff. And that's the things that I miss the most about my parents because we used to do that. You know what I mean? And things like that. You know, there were things that, you know, we did that a lot of people were unaware of. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that I get to share it now. You know what I mean? And share with everybody because, you know, what people see them as was what, you know, they knew them as. But me, on the inside, knew it was a little deeper than that. You know what I mean? Just the in depth part. And that was probably just for me to, you know what I mean? But both of them were loved. They, you know, had their ways about them, you know. things like that. So,
So another thing podcasts has opened me up to learning more about human nature, people, the way that we think and stuff. Like I learned something I learned something about addiction, right? That people don't I don't think that people don't realize it, or it just doesn't come to mind.
hmm
But addiction is obviously people that use,
hmm
but the people that are out there in their life that are distributing or selling or whatever,
hmm
they're addicted too.
right,
They're addicted
because
to
it's the money,
they're addicted to money, they're addicted to cars, they're addicted
right,
to
the
clothes, jewelry,
lifestyle.
the lifestyle.
Yes, yes.
Also they struggle with drugs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it's just everybody's addicted to something.
Yes, yes.
Um
Mm-hmm.
what like your struggle,
Was crack.
I mean, well no, not even that, but just like what was your struggle? Like why did you like just go through a quick, like why was I doing like what like where did I how did I get there? You know
Hanging
what I mean?
around, trying to fit in with the crowd. You know what I'm saying? Or curiosity. Curiosity kills the cat. You know what I'm saying? So when you're curious about things and you get to trying them and you like it, you in trouble.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Mhm. And
It's
that's
just
something
that
that
simple.
and pretty much anything that has that addictive, so we all got addictive personalities too.
Yeah.
Um
hmm
some people addicted to food, whatever the
Right.
case.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Um
hmm
and like you said, you're gonna like it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um how long do you think that you struggled?
Oh my goodness. I'm sure it was good over 10 years.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that
Mhm.
was also through a combination of different gateway drugs. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So, I'm glad that I could sit here and talk about that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Nah,
So,
it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
absolutely.
Some
But
people can't talk about
that's true. That's true. But, when you're in recovery, you want to share your story. You want people to know what's going on and things that happen. And, because there's always somebody's story that's worse than yours.
it. Oh shit. Hell
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Always. So, you think about some of the things and people that you ran with and some of the things that they got into and, all that. You sit back and you think, well, damn, I didn't, my situation wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? I was okay. You know what I'm saying? You realize that. Well, we all have a story. You know what I'm saying? Everybody got a story. You know what I mean?
How did you like learn and then overcome it?
Prayer.
Mhm.
You understand?
Mhm.
I mean it.
Mhm.
Prayer and my kids.
I
My
got clap.
oldest
That's a clap. I got
was
clap for that.
not going to allow anybody or anything to mess with her mind.
Mhm.
I don't care what it was, who it was, where it was. You understand what I'm saying? She
Enough
was
is enough.
Johnny on the spot with everything. Although I never wanted her to see me like that, for some odd reason, there was times when she would show up right at the right time.
Mhm.
Right at the right time. And I let her know that. You know what I mean?
Like an angel.
You almost saved you just saved my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had to tell her that. You know? And I also had aunties and, a great mom,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
And when you get that tough love too, that'll straighten you up quick. Because you don't want nobody that you really love mad at you.
So a quick message that I'm taking from what my cousin's saying is don't ever give up on your parents, and then same thing for parents, don't ever give up on your kids, because I mean you can just see it or read about it or hear whatever.
Absolutely.
Can't give up on your loved ones. And
hmm
that's shout out to Ashley because
hmm Once again, You're a good girl, Ash. I really appreciate you. You know what I mean? And I really want you to know that. I really love y'all so much. You know what I mean? But you have really been a big, huge pillar for your mom. You really have. And I so much love you for that. And I want you to know that. I tell you that all the time, but now I get a chance to say it here, so I'm going to say it again. I love you so much and thank you, honey. Thank you, because you never gave up on me. You never did.
I mean, that sums up like 5 or 6 questions right there. I mean,
Right?
my kid, my kids,
Mm-hmm.
and God.
Mm-hmm.
That's really powerful.
Absolutely.
Would
I'm
you
telling you.
would you ever move back to Phoenixville?
I would. Yeah. And because I lived there and I didn't have to touch nothing. And that was the biggest thing for me is to know that power is there. You know, like you got the strength to do this. It's all mind. You
Mental,
know,
right?
all mental. You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
about how, some people can't though. You know what I mean? They can't stay in the place where they grew up and uh, messed up at. You know what I mean? They gotta relocate or go to a different spot. You know what I mean? But I lived in Phoenixville many years after.
And I want people to know too, to add to that, just because if somebody has to move away from the place where they're from or whatever the case, and they don't want to go back, like she's saying, she's strong. She knows that she could survive and be
It's
successful.
willpower.
But that
Takes
doesn't mean
willpower.
that
That's right.
I'm better or she's better than somebody that
Thank
needs
you.
needs to stay.
Thank you so much for saying that,
Because
Darren.
my
Yeah.
mom wanted to be away from Phoenixville for
Mm-hmm.
decades,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and she knew when she should have moved back, and she knew when to move away too.
Right.
Um, and then I guess she figured the
Mm-hmm.
time was right when we did move back.
Mm-hmm.
But she was gone for good 20 years.
Right.
Um, so yeah, it just depends on the person.
Absolutely.
Everybody's different. But if you need to
Everybody.
get away, get
Mm-hmm.
away. If you need to stay away, stay away. And that's not Phoenix, but that's everywhere.
Everywhere.
People think,
Right. Not just
you know,
here.
it's just our town.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And some people are scared to get. Don't be scared to leave. I had to leave from Phoenixville. That's
Right.
where I left from, and
Mm-hmm.
it like you said, what actually saved my life when I left, because I would have been in a cell.
Right.
It saved my freedom.
Mm-hmm. Right. Absolutely. And sometimes you just want to, different change of environment is good too. That's a lot of reason too why people move. You know what I mean? You want to get fresh start somewhere else. You don't want to stay, you know what I mean? It's not always about that. You know what I mean? It's the willpower as well. But, when you want a different environment, different, you know, be around different people, that's too another reason why people go. You know what I mean? It's not, just because they can't um,
They can't make it.
right, right. You know, it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? Yeah, could
Was
go
there
both ways.
was there any big challenges like starting over?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the challenge is starting over is that monkey on your back until you get close to a year, or I could say 6 months, but everybody don't work like that. You know what I
You need at
mean?
least a year.
At least a year. You know what I mean? And your first, well, I know mine, for me, my first 3 months were hard. And I'm not going to lie about that. Actually, six. Because it was just like when you're in a routine of doing things a certain way,
Hmm.
you got to switch your routine up. So that kind of stuff don't get to creep in there. Am I making sense?
Yeah, because the idle time.
Thank you. Idle time will cause that. You know what I'm saying? And you also have to change your crowds. You know what I'm saying? So the people that you hung with, you still hanging around with them and you trying to get clean, that's not gonna work.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So um, it was a blessing for me because I prayed, You know how many things that I missed in life, like people's houses getting raided. I was already gone.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Things happening outside to these women out here selling their bodies and stuff. I never went that far. I didn't have to go. You know what I'm
Thank
saying?
God.
Thank God. But you can't tell me God wasn't carrying me. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Can't tell me He wasn't carrying me through all that. You know, everybody's mindset is different. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's addiction is different. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So, you know,
Did you have to go to treatment or
oh yeah,
therapy,
I went.
rehab?
Oh yeah, I went to like two different, maybe three. Let me see, Bowling Green, Lancaster. Yeah, it was about
Were you
three.
scared?
A little nervous, but the one place that I went to in Lancaster, I called them
Mm-hmm.
and told them, please come and get
Come
me.
again.
Please, you know
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Get
Mm-hmm.
me out of here. Like I don't want to be here down in this, out here in these streets like this no more.
And you knew it was
And the
time.
girl came. Oh, I sat an hour because she was coming from Lancaster. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? But she came and got me. You know what I mean? It was time.
And your mom probably had your back.
Absolutely. But I didn't want to get myself into any more deeper than I was
Already
already
was.
in
Mm-hmm.
because that would have led me to different stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I was glad to get off I wanted off the street, and that's not a lie.
How do you stay strong now? Like after losing, because I forgot about your dad. Somebody remind me. How do you stay strong after you lose your mom and your dad? Most people don't know what it's like to lose a parent in general.
I carry their strength. I always keep them in mind as to how they would want me to move in life. You know what I'm
I
saying?
know exactly what you're saying.
Everything that my mom taught me and instilled in me is still with me. And I still kind of hear her in my ear. I'm not going to lie about that. Because
Mm-hmm.
she's like, get your tail up from here. No, you're not going to lay down. Just get up. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Get out of this. I still hear that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it keeps me a constant reminder to keep it moving. And she always used to tell me, go live your life. Stop worrying about me and your dad. Go live your life. You know what I'm saying? That kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I carry that with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And to always take care of these kids because she loved these grandbabies. And somebody has to be here for these kids. Although they grown, they still need somebody. You know what I mean? Everybody needs somebody. You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The reconnecting and rebuilding with your kids.
Mm.
How was that? That was.
It's going great. And I think um, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, but my kids were angry and they had every reason to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get mad at that. Because I said, you have every right to feel the way you feel. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? I would never, ever tell you that your feelings aren't valid. You know what I mean? Um, I felt like I was getting ready to lose their respect. And that was a big thing for me because that's something I didn't want to happen. You know what I mean? I love my babies. You know what I'm saying? And what was out there in the world wasn't more important than that. You don't discover that until after the fact. But nonetheless, your babies mean more to you than anything.
Anything. And your mom instilling that respect value. That's
Mhm.
like a core for you. So that
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
Why you wouldn't want to lose your child, your own
Right.
children. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's that's well
Mhm.
said. What are you most proud of today?
I'm most proud of the progress. Where I am
How
now.
far you came?
Yes, because once you um get that title of an addict, people think.
That's
I mean, you still gotta carry it.
that's
Don't
you.
get me wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're gonna carry that for the rest of your life. It's how you carry you now. You know what I'm saying? It's all about how you carry yourself. How you present in yourself. How you, showing people who you are. You know what I'm saying? And it's not always about the people either. It's about you. Self respect. You know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
took me a long time to realize that self respect means a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And things like that. Knowing that what's out here is not, you know.
So for clarity purposes, like she said about you have to carry that. And so the addict tag, some people that don't know where you're at in your life now,
Mm-hmm.
they might still see you and think or question you or say something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you mean, because you're not that. That's who you were. That's not who you are
Thank
now.
you. That's my past. It's not my present or my now.
But the
Right.
tag will still always follow.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
I have bad tags that follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
we all have something.
Right. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. That like when my parents died, I think people got a little shook up. So he didn't go back out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He is not going back out there. There ain't nothing out there for me. I came this far not to go backwards. You know what I'm saying? And as long as I keep that in the forefront up here, I'm not going backwards. To
The
me, it's backwards.
the strength. That's the strength. That's
Mm-hmm.
just like you're so strong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what's something that you wish that people understood better about addiction?
That it's a devil, and a devil comes in all disguises.
Yep.
There's no more to be said after that. You know what I mean? The devil comes in all disguises. They come in sheep's and wolves clothing. They come any kind of way you need them to get you. And there's one thing that I will always remember. And my aunt Liz said to me, I still carry that with me to this day. And she died in 2009.
Hmm.
And she said to me, Vida, the devil has to ask God for permission to test you.
Yeah.
Don't let him test you. I will never forget that. I keep that in my head all the time. Now you talk about carrying something, that's that's something that I carry.
Yeah. That's why they
Always.
say. That's why they say God knows,
Yep. Yep.
all knowing.
Mhm. Mhm. Right.
He knows if you need the test, if you can take the test, if you can stand
Absolutely.
the test, everything.
Absolutely.
And obviously, he knew that you were one that
Mhm.
could withstand and you know make it through.
Mhm.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of people can't make it through.
That's true. That's true.
Hopefully, we can shed some light. I know my cousin. It took a lot of courage. I had to ask her time time after time because I just wanted to make sure. This isn't something to put people out there and to put people on blast. This
Right.
is something to try to help
Help.
people.
Yeah. Yeah.
People that can't make the leaps and take the steps and have the respect for themselves like she did.
Mhm.
Um, sometimes you just gotta take all that negative and, like she said, she put her kids first, and people can't do that. Um, so yeah, it's a lot of honor and respect
Mhm.
for you for that. Um,
I appreciate this, man. I do. Thank you.
I want to probably close with something that you would say to your mom, and you can also repeat that for your dad, but like something that you would say to your mom, um maybe you didn't get to say, or maybe it's something that you just something, if you could say something to her.
I got so much to say. But the one
I know you
thing,
do. I know because I do
yeah.
because, and I tell people, I talked to my mom literally until she couldn't talk no more,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
this was like 4 days, 5 days before she died,
Mhm.
and I know it was burning. My mom loved to talk, and
Mhm.
this is another reason I always say, this is why I do the plug in. This is a high 80% of why I do this, because I know my mom loved to talk to people,
Right.
loved to talk, and I seen when she couldn't talk to me, so it did something to me. So that's why I'm here. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the one thing that, well, several things. One of the several things that I would say to my mom is how much I truly miss her, how much I love her, and the advice. I still long for that. I still look for her knowledge and her advice on how to do things. Not hold my hand type thing, but just the knowledge that she carried and the wisdom, for just life purpose things. And the one thing that I would say to her is that I miss her so much. And I just, I'm glad that I can actually know how to get myself out of, certain situations and using prayer. Well, I tell you what, the one thing that I would love to say to my mom is that I am so glad that you have raised me to keep my head straight. You taught me a lot of your strength. I things I just will never forget, and I'm so appreciative for that. So appreciative that I was able to grab the knowledge of things, life,
Hmm.
you know, uh, spirituality, prayer, all of that. That's a big deal, and it has brought me so far in my life. I cannot explain, and I would have to thank her for that. That's a big thank you, and I'm so grateful. You know, and it was everybody. It's like the whole village. You know what I'm saying? But from her specifically, yes, thank her for all her strength and her wisdom and teaching us survival skills and how to get through life. It's just so much, so many things that I'm